What is happening right now in professional golf? It does not feel like a normal news cycle. It feels like a shift, a real one. The kind that you look back on 5 years from now and say, that was the moment everything changed. And right now, two stories are running parallel to each other. One about the end of a beloved tradition, and one about a superstar whose future is suddenly hanging in the air. And when you put them together, amigo, the picture gets very interesting. So let's break it down, because at Golf Al Maximo, we don't do surface level. We go all the way in. 56 years. That is how long Hawaii has been part of the PGA Tour's identity as a season opener. And starting in 2027, it is over. Gone. Done.
The Sentry Tournament of Champions at Kapalua's Plantation Course, that iconic, wide-open, ocean backdrop paradise where the best winners in golf come to shake off the off-season, is being removed from its spot at the top of the schedule. And the Sony Open at Wailea Country Club, a tournament that goes all the way back to 1965, also being pushed out of its current role. That is not a scheduling tweak. That is erasing a piece of golf's soul. Think about what Hawaii meant to the golf fan. You are sitting in January, it is freezing outside, and then there it is on your screen. Blue water, green fairways, players swinging loose and free with zero pressure. It was the perfect reset, the golf palate cleanser before the real grind began. Parker McLaughlin said it perfectly. People loved that escape. The sun, the ocean, the warmth in the middle of winter. It was therapy, brother. And the moments those events gave us, legendary. Hideki Matsuyama at Kapalua shooting 35 under par, the lowest score relative to par in PGA Tour history. Isao Aoki holding out for eagle in 1983 at Wailea. Ernie Els in 2003 becoming the first player to win both Hawaii events in the same season. These are the kinds of memories that make a venue iconic. Now yes, the tour has its reasons. The Sentry was actually canceled last January due to severe drought conditions at Kapalua. There are sponsorship questions hovering over the Sony Open. And logistically, the tour wants a tighter, more connected schedule that doesn't start across the Pacific Ocean. But here is the part that cannot be ignored. Hawaii loses up to $100 million in tourism revenue from these events, according to the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. We are talking jobs, exposure, economic impact. As Mufi Hanneman pointed out, those broadcast images of Maui in January made people sitting in 10-degree weather immediately want to book flights. That is the power of visibility, and that power is walking out the door. The Sony Open might survive in some form, possibly transitioning to the PGA Tour Champion Circuit, maybe linking up with the Mitsubishi Electric Championship on the Big Island. But let's be honest, that is not the same energy, that is not the same stage, and, as West Wailea reminded us, it is not only about the money, it is about inspiration. What does it mean for the next generation of players from Hawaii when the world's best tour stops showing up there? That question deserves a real answer. Okay, now we get to the part that feels like a telenovela, but make it golf. According to a report from The Athletic's Brody Miller, during Masters Week, Bryson DeChambeau was sitting down with multiple organizations exploring his options in case he decides to walk away from LIV Golf. That alone is a headline, but then you stack everything else on top of it, and it becomes something much bigger. Okay, now we get to the part that feels like a telenovela, but make it golf. According to a report from The Athletic's Brody Miller, during Masters Week, Bryson DeChambeau was sitting down with multiple organizations exploring his options in case he decides to walk away from LIV Golf. That alone is a headline, but then you stack everything else on top of it, and it becomes something much bigger. There is growing speculation, nothing confirmed but loud speculation, that the Saudi Public Investment Fund could pull its funding from LIV Golf after this current season. If that happens, everything changes. The contracts, the structure, the whole foundation of that league gets shaky. And then you look at what happened in Mexico City at Club de Golf Chapultepec. Bryson was visibly frustrated from round one, complaining about course conditions on camera, body language saying everything his words weren't. And then Sunday, he withdrew, citing a wrist injury after a week that clearly wasn't working for him on any level. Now add this. The report suggests if he does leave LIV, a return to the PGA Tour or a move to the DP World Tour could both be on the table. And we are not talking about a simple decision here. There is reportedly a contract situation worth around $500 million involved. Bryson has also built enormous leverage through his YouTube success. He is thinking bigger than just which tour he plays on. He is building a brand, and that brand now has options. The LIV reaction was immediate. Lee Westwood called it nonsense. Ian Poulter went further. Astonishing nonsense, he said, calling the reports disappointing. So inside the LIV locker room, there is clear pushback. But sometimes the loudest denials are the most interesting ones, no? And the PGA Tour? They are not exactly slamming the door shut. PGA Tour executive Brian Rolapp went on the Pat McAfee show and gave one of those answers that is not quite a yes, but is definitely not a no, making clear they are watching closely and ready to move if opportunities arise. That is a door with the light on inside. Remember, earlier this year, the tour created a formal pathway for LIV players to return. Brooks Koepka used it. Cameron Smith, John Rahm, and DeChambeau were all eligible, and all chose to stay. But that decision looks different now. The landscape looks different now. DeChambeau is expected to show up at Trump National Golf Club in Virginia for the next LIV event. But honestly, that almost feels like background noise compared to everything swirling around him. Here is what makes both of these stories hit differently when you put them side by side. The PGA Tour is closing the chapter on a 56-year tradition that shaped the personality of its entire season. At the same time, one of the most recognizable names connected to its biggest rival is surrounded by uncertainty, frustration, and open conversations about what comes next. This is not coincidence. This is a sport in the middle of a real transition, and the people inside it are making decisions right now that are going to define what professional golf looks like for the next decade. At Golf Al Maximo, this is exactly the kind of conversation we live for. The real stuff. The stuff that matters beyond just the leaderboard. So tell me, drop it in the comments. Do you think the PGA Tour is right to walk away from Hawaii? And if Bryson has the chance to return, should he take it? If you are here for real golf talk with real passion, hit that like, subscribe, and let's build this community together. We are just getting started, and we are going al Maximo.